Hyperinflation manifests itself in two different ways. And the way it manifests itself depends on the nature of the banking system in the country where the hyperinflation occurs. So, for example, we all know the pictures of Weimar Republic in the 1920s and people moving bushel baskets or wheelbarrows full of paper currency around. Or we've seen a similar type of thing occur just recently in Zimbabwe. Or 15 years ago, we saw the same thing in Yugoslavia. In those economies, the banking system was not very sophisticated. Very few people had bank accounts. And commerce was conducted by moving paper from hand to hand, in other words, paper currency. Even at the end of the month in Zimbabwe, the government did not write checks to pay its employees. It handed out paper currency to its employees because nobody had a bank account. So that's what I call a paper currency hyperinflation, and it occurs because there's a very unsophisticated banking system, very few people have bank accounts, and most commerce is conducted by actually moving paper currency around to complete the transaction. Now let's go to Argentina in 1991. Entirely different economy. Almost everybody had a bank account. Almost all commerce was conducted by deposit currency. Yes, there was paper currency in Argentina, but most transactions were done within the banking system with deposit currency by paying for goods and services with checks, wire transfers, plastic cards, and things of the like. Now, in January of 1991, the Austral, which was the Argentine currency at the time, was tied to the US dollar at 14-1, 14 Australs to purchase $1 US. The Argentine economy was going into a severe recession. The government decided to break the link to the US dollar, remove the discipline on how many Australs could be created in order to try to pump up the economy. I purposefully went to Argentina so I could see firsthand what was happening and to study, the impact of hyperinflation. I went there the first week of May. The Austral had already devalued to 64 Australs to purchase $1 US. When I left at the end of the week, it was 96 Australs to purchase $1 US. In December, it was 10,000 Australs to purchase $1 US. You had a deposit currency hyperinflation. There weren't wheelbarrows full of paper moving around, but there are a lot of zeros being added to checking accounts and bank accounts and savings accounts because it was a deposit currency hyperinflation, not a paper currency hyperinflation. Now, the other thing that was interesting to me when I went to Argentina, I was in Buenos Aires and I met with a lot of different shopkeepers and other people, but the lesson from the shopkeepers was particularly informative to me. They had already gone through hyperinflations before, and what they wanted to do was to convert their inventory as quickly as possible into a strong foreign currency or into gold, because they knew that if hyperinflation hit the economy, their business would suffer, and what they wanted to do is to get across the valley when the economy did poorly during the hyperinflation, have their purchasing power intact, so when stability and normal conditions returned, they could then replenish their shop with inventory by using foreign currency or gold to buy goods and services in the future. This struck me because it was a common theme on a number of different shops that I spoke to, and businessmen as well also wanted to do the same thing. They had this experience before. And the way I explain it is that I was in Buenos Aires when the tipping point was occurring. The tipping point is when confidence in the currency breaks. When you have what's called a fiat currency, backed by nothing but government promises, not backed by gold, not backed by silver, but just backed by the hot air of politicians. When you have a fiat currency, it rests only on confidence. And when confidence breaks, you then have the tipping point, and the currency then goes into hyperinflation. You have a flight out of the currency. That's what happened in Weimar Republic, that's what happened in Zimbabwe, that's what happened in Buenos Aires.